I want to say, start out by saying that I remember when I first started to consider myself a young man, and I started to do various things that in conversation people would label as brave. My actions were brave. And I remember how uncomfortable that made me feel because deep down inside, I believed that I was a closet coward because everything they were talking about, it took everything I had to work up the courage to do those things. So fast forward a couple of years, and I'm in college, first year of college, English Composition 1, and I'm assigned to do a research paper on Nelson Mandela. Well, I'm a dumb country boy, and I don't know much of anything about anything outside of my little world, so I didn't even know who this man was. So as I began to read and research about this man, I discovered what an amazing man of strength, patience, and courage he was. And somewhere along the way, I stumbled on a quote that changed my life. And it goes something like this: "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." Folks, that changed my life. It made me realize that I'm not a coward. I simply need to learn how to muster up the courage to get past fear to accomplish missions. Well, folks, it's no different for me today. It's the little things that still bring fear to me. Praying in public when I'm served a meal. Just a couple of weeks ago, I'm at a local cafe, and I'm sitting at the bar, and immediately to my right is this little boy and what appears to be his grandfather on the other side of him. And the waitress brings my plate, sets it down in front of me, and I've gotten pretty good at it. Instinctively, I took my hat off and bowed my head in an attempt to pray. And I don't close my eyes in public. Yeah, I'm literally that paranoid. So out of my peripheral vision, I couldn't help but notice that the young boy kept looking up at me, looking up at his grandfather, looking up at me, looking up at his grandfather. And finally, they had a short conversation. And I'm about half deaf, so I couldn't understand every word they said, but I understood enough to understand that the boy had asked his grandfather why I was staring at the floor, and he replied that he was thanking God for his breakfast. And just for a second, I noticed that boy's head bowed. Folks, you never know who's watching you. Now, I know I've told you guys this story before, but I remember the first time that I had a Christian brother pray for me in public. We were standing in a parking lot. He puts his hand on my shoulder, says, "Kevin, can I pray for you?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And I go to walk away, and I notice his hand is still on my shoulder. And he starts praying right there in front of God and everybody. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this. So I bowed my head. Folks, I don't remember a single word of that prayer because all I could do was think about how courageous it was, what courage it took for him to do this. I'll never be able to do this. Fast forward a couple of years, and I've got more than one friend that on occasion will call me or even in person and ask me to pray for them. I remember not too long ago, I'm walking through the aisles of Publix and my phone rings. It's my great friend from up in South Carolina, and he's one of the few people that are friends that I have that I can put on speakerphone without fear of something he might say. And so I could tell right away that he was struggling. And eventually he said, "Kevin, will you pray for me?" And I said, of course, immediately said, "Absolutely." But my heart just sunk and my mind's racing. Okay, can I make it to the bathroom? Oh, what if there's somebody in the bathroom? Maybe I can make it to the next aisle and there won't be anybody on that aisle. Finally, I was like, "No, brother, you got to just get this done." So here I am walking through the aisles, praying to my phone. And once it was over, he thanked me and said, "I love you, brother." And we hung up, and, he went the rest of his day with a totally different outlook on life. And finally, I'd like to say, if you think that Jesus Christ in his human form, as he walked among us, did not experience fear the night before he was tortured and hung on the cross to die, I'd say you're sadly mistaken. In Matthew chapter 26, verses 39 through 42, and I'm paraphrasing, but on two distinct different occasions, he walked away from the disciples put his head down to the ground and asked his father, if it's possible, let this cup pass before me, but your will be done. The men are going to come forward now and pass out the emblems. If you've not been here before, there are two cups. The one on the bottom has the bread, which represents